Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. My name is Lynn, and I am one of our sales reps here at WarmlyYours. And today I am joined by the wonderful Scott. He's one of our tech team members here.
Hello, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about product selection and sizing. It's a question that we get a lot. People often are concerned about making sure that they're picking the correct product, the correct size. So, we're going to go over some strategies to making sure that you're getting the right system for your needs. And today's going to be about an hour-long session. So first, we're going to be starting talking about our planning steps and kind of the foundation of radiant heating, what you want to be looking for, and understanding some of the key zones that you're going to want to heat. Next, we'll talk about some product information. We'll go over our different floor heating options, and we'll also talk about some of the cost analysis and the operating economics of the systems themselves. Then we'll talk about some real world applications. We'll be showing you some project showcases where our products have been used previously and how they were laid out, all that good stuff. We'll go over some temperature limitations and things like that. And at the very end, we'll open the floor to questions. We have gotten some sent in ahead of time, but if you have any questions during today's webinar, if you sent them in during the webinar, we'll see them by the end, and we'll definitely get to them in that question and answer session. So feel free to type away, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have. So one of the first types of coverage, and I think what most people think of when they start thinking or planning for floor heating, is the full room coverage. And that's really going to be best for priority spaces, spaces where you spend a lot of your time, spaces where you are on your feet a lot, maybe, where you actually feel that cold floor more often, or spaces that are especially chilly. And this is really great because it offers maximum comfort for your space. It's going to really warm the entire area, whether it's a bathroom, a kitchen, a living room. And this way you're going to have nice, consistent warmth under the entirety of the floor. Now, some things to keep in mind when you are looking at heating the entire room is that there are specific places where you should not be placing the heating. So, Scott, can you kind of tell us what those are and why you don't want to heat underneath them?
Yeah, under permanent fixtures, first of all, it's against the National Electric Code. So you don't want to heat under a permanent fixture because it just traps the heat. And that's a very bad idea. You don't want to do it, and that means built-in cabinetry. You do not want it under a cabinet in your kitchen or your bathroom or wherever. However, if you're doing a bathroom and you're doing, a cabinet in front or a vanity, probably a vanity is a better example. You make sure that you want to heat the toe kick, but you don't want to heat under the boxed in frame. So that's the big difference. A lot of people say, well, I'll stay away from this cabinet a few inches. You don't want to stay away from the cabinet. You want to get into the toe kick, but you don't want to go under the cabinet. And you definitely don't want to heat under refrigerators, under dishwashers. First of all, they're generating heat because they're running almost all the time, especially in the case of refrigerators now and other appliances. So there's no feet that are going to be hitting that space. So there's no need to heat it. No heat, no feet. No feet, no heat.
I like that. Now, the other option for heating is spot heating. And this is really great if you're a little bit more focused on budget, if the project's budget is a little bit tighter, or if you're just looking to save some power while still getting some really nice, comfortable, warm floors in the areas where you need them most. This is a great option for bathrooms, maybe in front of toilets, sinks, vanities, things like that. We also see it a lot in kitchen spaces. If you're going to be standing always, you stand directly in front of the sink and you feel it's very cold right there. It's a nice area to add a little bit of extra warmth without having to heat the entire space. And Scott, can you also tell us a little bit about some of the best ways to calculate how much or where you would want that spot heating to be?
You want the areas that you stand in the most. However, if you have 7 areas that you stand in a bathroom, you don't want 7 individual spot heating mats because you're having to make 7 connections instead of one for that bathroom. So if you have more than 1 or 2 spots that you are thinking about heating, If you're thinking about, oh, maybe I'll heat that third part or that fourth, as soon as you get past two, you are going to want to heat the whole room because you're going to have too many connections to do at the back of the thermostat. There's only so much room in the wall, so you want to make sure that you're going to limit that to one or two places. Now, if you look here, you want it in front of the sink and the vanity. That's very important. You want it in the toe kick. You might want it near the toilets, but you don't want to be any closer than 4 inches to the wax ring. Otherwise, you're going to melt the wax ring and then you're in big trouble. So you want to watch out for that. If you always stand in the same spot in the kitchen, that's a perfect place to heat it. Now, remember, in this room, say we're just most of our jobs are in bathrooms. Think about this bathroom. Do you want a nice warm spot in front of your mirror and then a warm spot in front of the shower and then cold tile in between? Because that's what you will get. Because you can't put heat in the center of the room and expect it to heat the whole room. I've talked to hundreds of people that go, let's just put a strip down the middle and that'll make the heat go the entire space. Well, it won't. It only travels about 1.5 inches from the edge of the wire. So keep in mind, if you do spot heats, as soon as you step off of that warm spot, it's going to be cold. So that's one thing to think about when you're thinking about spot heating.
Absolutely. So looking at some of our product options, definitely our most popular product is our TempZone mat systems. We offer TempZone Flex Rolls and TempZone Easy Mats. And these are very similar products. They're just used a little bit differently. So essentially, they're the same in that they have more or less the same cable in it. It's the same concept. It's a fiberglass mesh that can be unrolled and cut and turned to fit into the space if needed. Now, the TempZone Flex rolls really are designed for much larger areas. So these are great for, Scott, like you had mentioned, if you're looking at heating the entire room, or if you have lots of areas you're looking at heating, then this is going to be a good option because it will give you a lot more coverage without having to make a lot of connections to the thermostat. Whereas the TempZone Easy Mat, and that's really great for those spot heating areas where you're just looking at putting a little bit of heat in one, maybe two areas of the room, and then running it back to the thermostat.
Yeah, and the reason why we make such a big deal about this is because if a customer, and I've personally talked to customers, and it wasn't like a couple of weeks ago, where a customer had bought 7 easy mats to heat their bathroom, and then they go, "How do I hook all this up?" Well, then you have to start getting junction boxes because you have multiple mats that you have to hook up to the control because you don't hook one to the other. That's another common mistaken idea is that I'll just take this one and wire it to the other one. You don't. Both of them wire to the thermostat. So that's why we are bringing this up because I have personally talked to people that have bought 7 or 8 of these easy mats and then they said, well, I want to return them and get one roll then. Right. So that's why we're doing these things, right? So we can get that information into everybody's hands ahead of time so you don't make have the same issue. Both systems are about 15 watts per square foot. So they're both the same thickness. They both have the same warranty. It's just what is better for the space that you're going to be heating.
Definitely. And now our TempZone ruler cable, this is our newest product that we are super excited about. This is only available to our new and existing professional customers. So if you are a trade pro, if you work in the trades, these are available to you only through WarmlyYours. We don't have these on any of the big box stores, on Amazon, anything like that. This is just direct to our trade pro customers. And this is a really great product because it actually is designed to make the installation a lot quicker and a lot simpler. So, Scott, can you kind of tell us what the benefits of the ruler cable are?
The benefit is that you always know where you are. If you have a 300-foot cable, it'll tell you on the cable where you are at that point. So you can have an idea of where you are in the room and am I using too much or using too little. So that's what's so great because you always know how many feet you are into that particular product. Now, we're sending backup sensors with all of our products now. So you always have a second sensor because the other sensor is in the thermostat box. Don't forget about that. The one thing that is good about this product is you can do different spacing, 3 inch, 4 inch, 5 inch. Just keep in mind that the further away the cables are from one another, the less watts per square foot you have. The fewer watts per square foot that you have, the less heat you're going to get in that area. So an area that is really, really cold and it's like a 3-season room or whatever that you need to get as much heat into as you can, that's a job where you'd probably want to use 3-inch spacing instead of 5-inch spacing because you get more watts per square foot, which means you get more BTUs in that room. So a room that needs a lot of warmth needs a lot of BTUs, it needs a lot of watts, and it needs closer spacing. So a second floor bathroom with no exterior walls, that doesn't need as many BTUs to heat it up. And it starts warmer anyway because it's on the second floor. So that's a case where you'd probably do 5-inch spacing. So not every room is the same, and not every room requires the same number of BTUs. So that's a very important thing to keep in mind. TempZone ruler cable, though, is very great. It's very easy to see where you are all the time in your plan.
Absolutely. And there are two different installation methods for the TempZone cable. The first is our grip strips. These are fixing strips that are complimentary when you purchase the cable. So it's a really great budget friendly way to do this installation. Scott, can you tell us a little bit about grip strips and how they work?
Yes, we actually custom designed these grip strips. This is our design, and they are designed to hold the cable in place very snugly. So when you go around, when you see, you run it up to one of those knobs are 1-inch spaced. So you run it up the side of one knob over three and then down, and when you do that, it actually holds the cable in place. You always want to use you're going to find inexpensive knockoff cables that use metal straps. You want to stay away from metal straps. Metal straps can damage the wire. So if you have your choice of plastic strips or metal strapping, always go plastic. Because if anybody steps on that metal strap and pushes it down into the cable, you're in trouble. So, and also it may be a code issue too. So you want to watch out for that. And that's a great way that you have flexibility. 3-inch spacing, 4-inch spacing, 5-inch spacing. Now, Perdeso membrane is a good way to go for waterproofing and for anti-fracture, but not every single floor requires Perdeso membrane, but the ones that do, this product is great because it lets you, once again, it lets you do varying spacing. So you can get some areas, you could even get some areas a little bit warmer by doing the 3 knobs. Then maybe some places don't need quite as much heat, so you do 4 knob spacing. So those are the kind of things. Not every job requires the membrane. And usually we're going to see here the price, there's a price difference between these two. So that's why we're talking about this today.
Absolutely. And last but not least, our Envirin foil mat system. It's very similar to that cut and turn concept from the TempZone mats. However, this is designed for floating floors. So Envirin is not designed to have any kind of embedding, any kind of thin set, self-leveling cement, anything like that over it. It's really just supposed to go down and then have the flooring go directly on top of it. So Scott, can you tell us a little bit about where this might be used?
Yeah, this is used with carpet in the US and with laminate and with engineered wood. Um, Stretch in carpet, not carpet squares. Okay, so this Environ doesn't attach to anything and nothing is attached to it. It's purely a floating application. The one thing you have to keep in mind is LVT is a snap together floating application, but this product is not for that because it's not as flat as LVT requires. And it also may not comply with some other installation rules that they have. So this is for laminate, engineered wood, and stretch-in carpet. It's 12 watts per square foot, and you are going to have a pad underneath it. You never have hard flooring, Environ, and hard subfloor. You always have that one side of it has to be soft, and that is going to be your, if we take a look here at this drawing, I don't know if you can see my cursor moving or not, but can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this black stuff here is thermal sheet, and the thermal sheet is 1/4 of an inch thick. So it goes on top of the subfloor, thermal sheet, and then the Environ, then the flooring on top. So that's going to be your padding that is required so it doesn't abrade itself to death. Two hard surfaces are going to take it and they're going to cause that to abrade. So what you have to do is have the softer layer underneath it. And also it allows you to get the non-heating leads from the heating product across the floor and into the wall up to the thermostat. You have to have that 1/4 inch pad to be able to do that. So that's what is so good about this system. This is the easiest system to install. So just keep that in mind. It does have a 10-year warranty with laminate and hardwood, and it has a 5-year warranty with carpet.
Great. So we've gone over some of our options that are available. Now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty of choosing the right system. And obviously, that's what we are here for. We are the radiant heating experts. So if at any point you need assistance figuring this out, we always recommend reaching out to us. But as a good rule of thumb, looking at TempZone flex rolls, again, these are great for those large open areas where there's pretty minimal obstructions. If you're looking to basically just roll it out, cut and turn it, and have it fill the space, the TempZone flex rolls are going to be a really, really great option. Our TempZone Easy Mats, again, are smaller. They're pre-configured sizes, so they're ideal for smaller installations if you're looking for some spot heating or just to put it down in 1 or 2 areas of a room for some very simple, low hassle heat. And then looking at the TempZone cable system, again, this is great for some of those custom shaped areas. If you maybe have a round room or if you have a room with lots of fixtures that you want to work around, the cable is a really great option for that because it gives you maximum flexibility for the installation. You also get precise control of the layout, and you can have different spacing for the cables. Again, we can do 3, 4, 5-inch spacing. So there's a lot of flexibility with the cable heat. And the Envirin foil mat system, again, this is great if you're going to be doing a floating floor. It has that very ultra thin profile, and you don't have to worry about using any kind of mortar. So it's great for underneath those laminate, those carpet options. That's where Envirin really shines. And then last but not least is our slab heating system and our shower mat systems. And these are a little bit more specialized. Slab heating is great for large commercial areas, or if you're looking to do a new pour in a home, if you're building a new home, putting slab heat in the floor is going to be a great option if that concrete is your final flooring. If you're going to be putting a concrete floor down and then putting tile on top, using something like TempZone is usually a better option. But if that concrete is going to be the final floor, putting heating in it is a good way to warm that space. And then we also offer shower mat systems, and these are designed for showers specifically. They already have a drain hole cut out in them, ready to go. So these are great to quickly add a little bit of extra warmth and luxury to a shower floor.
Yeah, and the good thing about those shower mat systems, they come in very standard sizes. So it's like 3 or 4 different sizes, which are in the United States. A lot of showers are a certain size, right? They're pretty much cookie cutter. Well, we have mats that you don't have to cut and turn. You just simply lay them down in there and cover them with thinset, and a nice, very easy to install system. Now, one of the things we're going to be talking about a little bit is to make sure you order the right size. The most important thing with any of these products on this screen is you cannot cut the heating wire. You need to remember that. So you don't buy a giant spool of heating cable, do your installation, then cut off whatever's left over. You can't do that. You have to order the correct size. So we're going to be talking in the future about how to find the correct size, because you just can't order a big spool, use part of it in this room. And I've talked to people that have done this, that I'm going to use this part in this room, I cut it, then I use the other part in the other room. Well, they have 2 rooms now that they can't use because you can never cut the heating cable.
Definitely. That's something that we'll probably say a few times today, and we really want to drive that point home. Be sure that you are not purchasing too much and cutting it. That's what we are here for. And really, we try to make it as simple as possible for you. We want to help figure out exactly which product and which size you'll need. So this is a really good tool to figure out which product you should be using, kind of based on your expertise or your previous installation experience. So Scott, can you kind of tell us what might be best if you're, a basic DIYer all the way up to a pro? As a pro, you are definitely the person to ask.
Well, I can tell you what, once you do your first floor, you're not really a DIYer. You've gained experience. You're on your way to being a pro. And because once you learn the basic things like here's where the cold lead goes, here's where the sensor wire goes, here's how I lay it out. Once you get that done, you can now move on to other rooms and boom, 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 get it knocked out. It's that learning curve of the first one that you do. So if you're a homeowner and you're going to be doing 4 rooms and you're going to be doing it yourself and you've never done it before, you are going to start with the easiest room first, which is usually 9 times out of 10, the smallest room. And you're going to learn how to lay it out. You're going to learn where the sensor gets placed, where the non-heating leads go across the floor up to the wall, and then up to the thermostat, whether you need conduit or not. All those things you're going to learn in the first time around. Then after that, once you've done your first floor and you continue to do other floors of the same type, then you are going to be moving past the DIY stage into the enhanced DIY stage where you're doing it yourself, but you already know how to do it. So the easiest thing, if you're doing a DIY, is Envirin. Environ, there's no thin set to mix. There's no self-leveling to mix. You simply lay it out in the correct layers and then you put it in. Now, what we're going to get to later is you need to think of your floors as a sandwich, okay? You are going to tell us what's on the top layer of bread, you're going to tell us what's your flooring. The bottom layer is going to be what's your subfloor. And once we know the subfloor, that's why we always ask these questions. When people go, I don't know what my flooring is going to be yet, then I can't answer your question yet, right? Because I don't know what your floor is. I can't tell you what product you get. So we need to know the subfloor and the flooring, and then we'll tell you what goes in the middle. What's the meat of the sandwich? We will tell you that if you can tell us what the top layer and the bottom layer are. So Environ's the easiest. If you are doing a floating floor and it is laminate or engineered wood, then Environ is going to be the way to go because it's very easy to lay out the thermal sheet because you don't have to attach it to the subfloor. It's all a floating application. And then you lay the Environ on top, floating, and then you lay your floating floor on top of that. There's no mixing. None of that stuff is needed. Very, very easy to install.
Simple.
When you are getting into more difficult, but not difficult, but more challenging spaces, like you're going to be using the TempZone Flex Roll. And once you do that, you're going to be experienced. You've learned. You have any other rooms to do after that, you're set. Cable with the grip strips is no more difficult. It just takes a little bit longer. So if you are a DIYer with plenty of time, you can manually go back and forth between the grip strips, laying the cable down on the floor and taking your time putting it in. You're good to go. The cable with the membrane, it's a little more advanced because these last two things require thin set. And so does the TempZone Flex Roll. So you're either going to need to be to mixing thin set or self-leveling. So those are the things you want to keep in mind. Do I want to mix this stuff? Do I want to be responsible for mixing my thin set or to make sure that my self-leveling is mixed correctly? It's not too watery. It's not too solid. That's the kind of thing you're going to have to be the judge of that. But we talk people through this, all these different jobs all the time.
Absolutely. Even I think the most advanced, quote unquote, is not especially difficult. It just takes a little bit more preparation and knowledge.
Yep.
So the next step will be choosing your floor heating thermostat, and you're really going to pick this based on how you plan to use the system day in and day out. The Entrust 2.0 is our newest non-programmable thermostat. This is a really great option if you're on a tighter budget or if you're looking for just a very simplistic thermostat. This is not going to give you any advanced features. This doesn't offer any kind of programming. It's simply a set it and forget it thermostat. So it's great for areas where you'll be heating seasonally or for floors that don't do well with a lot of temperature fluctuation like many hardwoods. And then the Inspire Touch is a programmable thermostat. It's all programmable through the thermostat itself. So there's no app or remote control of it, but it does give you a lot of daily heating schedule options, as well as some temperature adjustments and energy savings, because you can program this to be on when you need and off when you don't. And last but not least is our Enjoy Wi-Fi thermostat. And this is a really sleek looking thermostat that is compatible with a lot of smart home options like Alexa and Google Home. And it also works with an app on your phone so that everyone in the home has access to the thermostat and you can control the temperature and the programming through that app.
Yes, and we're going to be having I'm putting on my Karnak the Magnificent hat. You're probably not old enough to know who Karnak is, but that was a Johnny Carson bit.
I'm familiar
But
with Johnny Carson.
but Karnak would say this is going to come in handy in the future because the Wi-Fi is usable with Alexa and Google Home. So
Yeah,
that's a question that's going to be coming up very soon about how to control floors differently. The other two on the left are not. The not the basic premise of a programmable thermostat is it allows you to heat the floor up to a warmer temperature when you're home and you're using it, and then lower it to a lower temperature. It doesn't turn completely off, it just goes to a lower temperature, saving you money. That's called a setback. So comfort temperature, then setting it back to a lower temperature. Well, you have to make sure when you're thinking about your flooring, if you're hardwood or laminate, do they allow setbacks? Do they allow you to change the temperature from 84 to 68? Maybe they have a rule that you can't do any difference between more than 1 or 2 degrees per day. Well, if you can't do more than 1 or 2 degrees per day difference, there's no need to buy a programmable thermostat. It would be just a waste of money. What you would want to do is you would want to use the non-programmable thermostat. So one of the funny thing is the most expensive floors, like expensive hardwoods, the more expensive your floor is, usually has more rules, and the more expensive floors require the least expensive thermostat. So it's kind of like an interesting dichotomy there. So you have that's the basic premise of programmable and non-programmable and why some are used and some are not.
awesome. So here we'll be going over some project examples where our products were used. And we're starting with a owner suite bathroom remodel that was done recently. So Scott can open that. Awesome. And this one was done in Massachusetts, and it was using our TempZone cable with our Prodeso membrane. So you can actually see, and if you want to see these, check these out for yourself. We do have lots of these project showcases on our website. You can actually check out the layout plan that we sent over to the customer, and then you'll be able to see during the installation some of the different steps as they went along.
Yep, so you can see here that it's installed in the Prodeso and it's done at 3 stud spacing. This customer was kind enough to send us a drawing that showed a floor vent. Floor vents are very important because you can't just run heating cable over floor vents. The more floor vents you have, the more square footage to heat is removed. The more square footage you remove, the less cable you need. So it's very, very important to show us those kind of things. And here's a picture of the finished product, and that's a beautiful floor.
Beautiful. Yeah. Wow. Look at that. That looks awesome. And it'll be nice and warm. That's the best part.
And this is what the plan looks like. So it tells you exactly where to lay the product out. It shows you where the start is right here at the bottom by the closet. And then as the cable travels back and forth, you can see where the midway point is of the cable. So you should be matching up your distance measurement on the Pro cable, the ruler cable, or a white piece of tape on our regular TempZone cable. And that way you know where your halfway part is. And then the end is there with the square. So whenever you're looking at these plans, always look for the start, which is a triangle, the T, which is where the thermostat is, the sensor there, and the end. Those are the most important things you're going to take away from these plans.
Awesome. And then our next project showcase was a Idaho Falls dining room, and this one was done using our TempZone flex rolls. And this is really a beautiful room that was done super simply. That TempZone flex roll just needs to be cut and turned into the space because you can see how simple it is. It's not an especially difficult room, not lots of cuts and turns, anything like that. So you don't have to worry about anything being in the way, any kinds of cabinets, things like that.
But this is a great plan because if we look up here, we see a T in a circle.
Yes.
Then we see a P1 and we see a P2. So that means we have power modules here because a thermostat can only handle 15 amps. So if you have a job that's over 15 amps, maybe 17 or 18 amps, you're going to need a control and a power module because each one can handle 15 amps. So that's the thing to keep in mind. 15 amps, 120 volt and 240 volt, doesn't matter. You can use up to 15 amps. The good thing about 240 volts is it allows you to cover twice the space and use the same amount of amps. So otherwise, there is no benefit to 240. And I bring this up every single webinar because one of the first questions people ask is, well, should I get 240 or not? Well, you don't need 240 in a small bathroom that's under 100 square feet because you don't want to use two breaker spaces up because a dual pole breaker for 240 takes up two spaces. So you may not have two spaces in your breaker panel. You may only have one. If you only have one, you're going to be using 120. There's no reason to do 240 when you're going to take up an extra space in your breaker panel. A lot of people just don't think about that because usually it's their first job, right? So they don't know all the finer nuances to do that. But here you can see the product where it's laid out on the floor. They're using a TempZone cut and turn. And you can see they filled that whole space. And there's the shiny self-leveling over the top. And it looks pretty cool just with the self-leveling. When self-leveling is wet, it looks really cool when you take
It
pictures
does.
of it. But that's what this room is. Now they have a heated subfloor. And the good thing about that subfloor is they could really install anything they wanted over the top of it. They could put tile over the top. They could do this entire space with LVT, whatever they wanted to do. That's what's great about that product.
Absolutely. And then this is a bedroom that was done using our Envirin mats. And you can see the kind of aluminum foil look of these mats on the floor. This is done in Chicago. So this is for a bedroom. And as we know in Chicago, it does get especially cold. So adding some warmth is going to make it super cozy in that space. And this is again showing how you'll be cutting and turning the mat to fit into the room. Scott, can you tell us a little bit about what we're looking at here since this one is a little bit more complicated?
Yeah, well, you've got roll number two and roll number one. Roll number one starts over here. The cold leads are 20 feet long. Or I'm sorry, yeah, they're this one is 15 feet long.
15.
Sorry. So this one's 15 feet long and it runs from here over to the thermostat. And then you just do cuts and turns, cut and turn, cut and turn, cut and turn, never ever cutting the cable, always cutting the mesh until you get down to the end and it ends there. Now this one over here starts over by the thermostat too. That way you can run both sets of leads to the back of the thermostat. And this one is a little more elaborate because you have to do a cut and turn, then go this way, and then do a cut and turn, go this way, and then go around and around and around. So that's how you get to the very end. So that is an installation with the carpet. What's great here is when you're doing a carpet, you are putting the Envirin between the carpet pad, which is this stuff here, and you're running it between the carpet pad and the carpet. You're stretching the carpet out over the top of that. So that way it's a sandwich in between. And the good thing about carpet pad is it usually has a really good R value, like sometimes 2 or 3, an R value of 2 or 3. So that's your built-in insulation to keep the heat from going down into the concrete slab. So that's what we're always going to do is we're going to always keep the heating wire off of the slab. You never want to put heating wire directly on your concrete slab, whether it's Envirin, whether it's TempZone, no matter what it is, except for the slab heat. Everything else you want to isolate from the slab because we're heating a very thin layer, which is more it's more faster acting. and it allows you to heat just the space you want to heat.
Very cool. It looks very futuristic.
Yes. And there's where our thermostat is.
Wonderful. Awesome. And those are very helpful. Again, if you ever want to check these out on our website, we have lots of these project showcases available. So you can kind of look through and get some inspiration from what others have done with our heating products. So, starting with the installation planning, you want to make sure that you are thinking this through and preparing for the heating system before beginning your actual installation process. So, one of the first things you want to do is look at your electrical system and look at what you have available. So, Scott, can you kind of tell us how they would be or what you should be looking for with that?
Yeah, if we send you a plan, it's going to have all the information that you need on it. It's going to tell you the size of the breakers you need. It's going to tell you how many watts your product is, how many amps it draws. You're always the first thing you're ever going to do before you start talking to us about heating your floors. Make sure you have space in your breaker panel, because if your breaker panel is completely full and they can't swap any breakers out, you are going to have an issue because the thermostat should have its own dedicated breaker. And if we're doing a smaller space, if it's under 120 square feet, we're going to design that in 120 for you. So you don't have to worry about taking up multiple spaces that you may not need. So that's the kind of thing that we're going to give you. We're going to give the watts, breakers you need. They need to be on non-GFCI breakers because the GFCI protection is in the thermostat. So that's I just kind of I went ahead one spot there. Sorry about that, but the GFCI protection is in the thermostat, so you don't need to worry about putting it on a GFCI circuit breaker. And if you do put a GFCI thermostat on a GFCI circuit breaker, you are going to have a really good chance at nuisance tripping. So, and that's when the floor thinks that something's, or the breaker thinks that something wrong with the floor. It's just seeing the other GFCI on the same circuit. So that's what can cause that problem.
Definitely. And then one of the other things you really want to be planning ahead for is your accurate measurements. We can provide our complimentary layout plans to you only with the layout that you provide. So if you give us a drawing, we want to make sure that the measurements are as accurate as possible so that you're getting the size of the heat that you need. Again, making sure to mark any kind of obstacles that need to be avoided, making sure that you are putting the measurements for those as well. This way, we'll be sure that we are drawing the correct layout for you and that you're getting the exact system and sizing of system that you need.
You're not getting a cable or a product that's too big,
Right.
because that's the main thing we don't want to do is we don't want to be stuck with too much product. My cable's 20 feet too long. Can I just cut it off? No, you can't do that. So that's where accurate measurements are very, very important. When you send us a diagram, that may be 6 months before the house is built. Well, maybe the homeowner is going to decide, you know what, we're going to take this tub, we're going to double the size of that tub. Well, you double the size of that tub, you're now taking away an area that you plan to heat, and you're not going to heat under that tub. So now all of a sudden you've reduced the square footage available to heat. Now the product you're getting is going to be too big. So what you are going to want to do is when you get your installation plan, the main thing that's written on that installation plan is check your measurements. Please verify dimensions, because you have to make sure that the dimensions have stayed the same and you've gotten the correct product. Because if you say, you know what, oops, they did get a bigger tub, I need to draw this, just draw it, send it to us, and we'll redo the drawing for you and get you the correct stuff. That's the most important thing, is to get you the correct product.
Absolutely. Another really important step is making sure to test the system before the installation begins. So making sure that when you receive it, we always recommend, I mean, the day that it's delivered, pulling it out, making sure everything's in there and that everything is working properly. You'll want to double check that all of the ohms readings that you're getting are correct. Scott, can you kind of tell us a little bit about what you're looking for with that system testing before the install begins?
Well, the first thing you're looking for is you're going to be going to a big box store and you're going to buy a digital ohm meter if you don't have one, because every single job requires a digital ohm meter. Now, the good thing is digital ohm meters are only 20 or 30 bucks at the most at any big box store, but you're going to have to invest in one of those because that's how you do your testing. I just talked to somebody a week or two ago who said, we're going to be testing the system by turning it on. You don't test the system by turning it on because what they did is they had a coil of wire and they hooked it up to the power, and within about 10 seconds, that coil had melted because you can never ever take a coiled bit of cable and supply any power to it because you've got so many watts per square inch there that it just overheats really fast. So if you're ever talking about testing, you're never talking about turning it on. When you're talking about testing, you're talking about testing the product with a digital ohm meter. And that's the only way around it. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your tests before, during, and after your installation and write those ohm readings down in the install manual. And if you're the homeowner, you're going to keep that. If you're the installer, you're going to give that to them with the labels that come on the product. You're going to stick it in that manual. You're going to do your final ohm readings and fill those out and write them down in the space provided in that manual.
Yes, absolutely. And then covering the heating, if you're going to be doing a temp zone system, be sure that you are using the correct protection over the top of it. Scott, can you kind of tell us a little bit about embedding the system and what that looks like?
Yeah, you're going to be the fastest and easiest. I didn't say least expensive, but the fastest and easiest way to get yourself a nice flat floor to either put LVT on or to put laminate on or to tile over. The fastest way to do that is take our product, whatever product you want to use. We don't suggest self-leveling over the Prodeso because it doesn't make any sense to do that. That would be a waste of money and effort. But if you're doing TempZone or you're doing TempZone cable, the best thing is to adhere it to the subfloor very, very well so it doesn't float, and then put a half-inch layer of self-leveling over the top of it and let it dry, let it cure, whatever you need to do. Let it get to the proper moisture level before you cover it up with flooring. And that's going to allow you to do a couple things. It's going to allow you to start putting tile down if you want, or you can start laying out your LVT or your laminate, whatever you want to. And the thing is, sometimes people's uh, choices change over time. So maybe that LVT that you put in this year, you might not like that 4 or 5 years from now. Well, the good thing about that is with self-leveling, you just take the LVT that you're tired of, you take it off and you put LVT down because all you have left with is a heated subfloor. So you take the LVT you don't like, put the LVT down that you do like, and now you've got a different heated LVT floor again.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's an absolutely great way to make sure that you have that warmth and that comfort while you still can kind of change your design tastes. And then we always recommend consulting with professionals. We always recommend working with licensed electricians to be doing the wiring and the connections, consulting with flooring specialists to make sure that the materials that you're working with are suitable with our heating. And we always recommend engaging with experienced installers to actually put that system down and make sure that everything is done correctly. And at the end of the day, make sure that all the work complies with your local building codes so that everything can go very smoothly.
Yeah, the thing is, we can tell you how our product needs to be installed. Like it needs to be in self-leveling or it needs to be in modified thin set, but we're not there. We can't tell you if your subfloor is good enough to install the product. We can't tell you if it's got too much deflection. We can't tell you if you need to use certain product. We can't tell you how to make your subfloor good because we're not there. We can tell you once your subfloor is good, here's how you install it, but you're going to have a pro come in there and say, what's the deflection on this floor? Is it too bouncy? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? That's where you're going to ask the flooring people, what would you do here? Yeah, your floors, you need to do this and that and to get your subfloor in better condition. Then you can tile over the top. Boom. That's the professional consultation you need because we can tell you once you got that done, once that's done, here's how you do the rest. But you have to get a good subfloor in there.
Definitely. So we offer a few different ways to get your custom heating plan, and we want to make it as simple as possible for you. One is our instant quote builder, and this is great if you already know your square footage and you want some pricing ideas, maybe for budgeting purposes. And if you're planning to send a floor plan in later, the instant quote builder is a great way to get an idea of what you're going to be working with. And basically, what you'll be doing is answering these questions to the best of your knowledge. So tell us the kind of room that you'll be installing in, tell us the subfloor that will be in the space, and then tell us the flooring that you're planning to be putting down over the heat. And from
Once
that,
again, there's those two questions, right?
yes,
What's your subfloor and what flooring are you using?
absolutely. And those are very, very important because then we can build you that sandwich. So make sure that you're putting in the area coverage. The generally we'll start with the room area and then it will kind of guess at what the heated area will be, since often you're not heating the entirety of the space, and you can adjust the heated area as needed. And then it will actually help you build out your system. It'll show you which products will be compatible based on the information you told us, and you can learn a little bit more and pick out your full heating system. So you can see it gives you the options for the cable and fixing strips, for the TempZone flex roll, or for the cable and Prodesto membrane, and you can choose which one you prefer.
Yeah, the great thing, we've been in this business for over 20 years, so we have a lot of experience in doing this type of work. Now, we know you can use different types of heat, different types of product to heat a space. There are some companies out there who only sell a membrane and you have to put cable in it. That's the only way they can heat things. Well, we can do that too. But the thing is, not every floor needs a membrane. Look at the difference in the price. You're buying membrane if you don't really need it, you're spending $498 here. If you don't need the membrane, why buy it? And here you can do the install for $289. So more than $200 less expensive. So that's, there's more than one way to I can't say that anymore because it's not friendly, but there's more than one way to accomplish a goal. How about we say that? So not every job requires membrane. So some jobs do, but not every single one. So let's choose this. Then once we do that, we can choose this type of product. What type of thermostat do you want? Do you want a Wi-Fi thermostat or do you want a non-programmable thermostat? Well, let's say that we're doing LVT and we can't do a temperature setback. So we're going to choose that. We're going to choose the non-programmable thermostat, and it's going to tell you all this, and the magic machine is going to spit you out a quote of this particular job, 448.
Wonderful. And
Yeah.
you can play around with that too if you want to see what different pricing options might look like. It's definitely a great tool to have at your disposal. Our other option is our floor plan finder tool. So on our website, if you go to WarmlyYours.com, you'll see that we have over 100 different floor plan examples, and you can take a look at the different options out there and find one that works similarly to how your floor is laid out, or you can actually use it to kind of get an idea of what you might want to be doing in your specific bathroom.
Yeah, so just look for your bathroom type, right? A lot of bathrooms are fairly, if, sometimes they're cookie cutter, right? A lot of them are very, very similar. So let's just choose bathroom number one because it's right here. Why not?
Awesome. And then again, this is a pretty simple looking bathroom. It's not anything very crazy, and it gives you the options that are available for heating this space. So again, the TempZone cable, the cable with Prodesto, or the flex roll, you can get an idea of what the different costs will be and what you'll be actually looking at for the installation process itself.
Now, if you're a pro, you're going in and you're doing a price for a customer, you know that the floor is nice and solid. You know that they don't need this membrane. So you can go in and go, listen, I know you got a price for this, the membrane type installation, but I tell you what, I can do that for a lot less if we use this. And you're going to get the same amount of heat, and it's going to install in just about the same amount of time. So that's where it's so important to be educated, to know I need this for this, but I do need that for that. So I'm going to do this one in this case, but maybe I'll just keep this in mind for the next job where the floor isn't quite as stable. I'm going to use a Prodeso, but right now I've got a nice, really solid floor. I'm going to use this cable with strips and save $200 almost. So that's what's so good about this type of installation.
Absolutely. And again, we invite you to play around with that, see what different rooms we have. You can also use our design your own room tool. And this is a design tool on our website. So you can actually draw your specific room and how it looks with the sizes of everything. You can add fixtures, you can add thermostat locations, and you can really get pretty granular with it and draw exactly what your bathroom will look like and send that in to us for a quote. And of course, one of the easiest ways is just submitting your plan. So if you have a floor plan, whether it's just a hand-drawn sketch, whether it's a professional architect's layout, as long as the dimensions are on there, our engineering team will take that and draw up a full layout plan for you, showing which products you'll need, how they'll be laid out in the space, and we'll also give you a full electrical spec sheet as well, so that you can really plan for your project start to finish. Awesome. And you can do that either by submitting it through our website. If you've been working with someone, sales rep here directly, you can always send it to them via email. So whatever is easiest for you to get it into us works for us. So like I said, be sure that you are drawing up an accurate floor plan. Make sure that it is as accurate and precise as possible, and that you mark where the power will be located if you know this off the top of your head, so that we can mark where the thermostat will be located.
Don't forget, this is my signal to hold on a second. Don't don't forget to mark your floor vent locations. And if you're doing a bath or a basement, we're going to be talking about basements next month, but if you're doing a basement, make sure that if there are any support beams, that are in the middle of the floor, that you show us where they are and how big they are, because you can't run cable through a beam. So keep that in mind. Sorry about that, Lynn. I just want to make sure we
Absolutely. That's what we have you here for, all the expert information. So yes, make sure that anything like that is being accounted for. You do want to, I always recommend, if you can, kind of walking around the room and just looking at it through that lens of, floor heating. I think that often, I mean, I personally couldn't tell you where any floor vents are in my house, but I know that we have them, so I'd have to go look. So definitely make sure that you're double checking before sending that in. And then once you do send it in, again, however is easiest for you, generally within a business day, we can have turned around for you your smart plan. And this will have the installation plan. It'll also give you a heated area plan, so you can at a glance make sure that you're getting the heated coverage where you want it. We'll also provide you with that itemized product quote, so that you have exact pricing and an exact pricing breakdown, as well as that electrical plan, so that everything is that will be needed can be prepared for. So again, some of the things that we talked about today, I know we kind of talked about a lot, but it's because it's very, very important. You want to make sure that you are getting the size product that you need and getting the type of product that you need, so that when you go to begin your installation, you have a good game plan and you're ready to go. We try to make it as simple as possible for you leading up to the installation day. So definitely reach out to us, utilize our smart plans, utilize our quote builders, utilize us in general to make sure that you're getting the product that you need. And of course, you can always submit your floor plan however you need to. Be sure to check out our website, look at our project showcases, and this way you can get some really good inspiration for your next heating project. So we received a few questions ahead of time. I imagine this is where the Johnny Carson bit came in. Scott, okay, cool. I didn't think you got magical powers suddenly, but I never can tell.
Oh yeah, never sell me short.
Exactly. Who
Carmack
knows?
says.
So Gerald had asked us if he's going to be installing some click lock floors and is wondering what kind of product can be used under that. So Scott, can you answer that?
Depends on what the click lock floor is. Because if it's LVT, you're going to be using TempZone, covered with a half-inch layer of self-leveling concrete or self-leveling cement, and then you are going to lay the click lock floors together. If you're doing click lock laminate or engineered wood, you can use our Envirin. And the Envirin is probably going to need a thermal sheet under it, between the subfloor thermal sheet and the Envirin and the flooring.
Absolutely. And then Susan asked for the best radiant system for floating LVP or LVT flooring. And I could definitely take that one. It would be a TempZone system with self-leveling cement over the top. Again, usually about a half inch, correct, Scott?
Yeah, half inch, because a lot of there's two big rule, usually, well, there's three when it comes to LVT. Maximum temperature, the temperature they don't want you to go over. Also, the flatness requirements. You can't have anything bumpy underneath the product. And they will say the heat must be located a certain distance away from the LVT. Usually that's a half an inch or so.
Definitely. And that's why it's important to be talking to your flooring manufacturer. They'll tell you about those requirements specifically. And Pedro had asked, are there any brands of smart thermostats that can be used for these systems so they can be integrated with an existing control system?
And
Scott.
yes, yes, this is where Karnak has appeared earlier. This is going to be our Wi-Fi thermostat that you can control with Alexa or with Google. And if you don't want to go with those two operating systems, then what you can do is you can look for another thermostat. The main thing, a lot of thermostats can be used with our floor heating, but they have to be with the most important thing, line voltage thermostats, because a line voltage thermostat is getting 120 volts into it, then it's sending out or getting 120 or 240 sent into it, and then all it is a switch that turns on and off. So if you're sending 120 to it, it's going to be sending 120 out of it. If you're sending 240 into it, it's going to be sending 240 out of it. It's just a switch that turns that on or off. So if you can find a thermostat that's a line voltage thermostat, Honeywell makes them. We sold Honeywell thermostats for years. They were just very difficult to program, but they can be used with with our floor heating. So yes, you can either use um, Alexa or Google through our Wi-Fi, or another supplier of a line voltage thermostat to use another operating system.
Definitely. And then Tomas asked about the order for the layers when applying soundproofing, waterproofing, and a heating mat into the same area.
Well, what I would do if I were in a bathroom, because we do a lot of bathrooms, is I would put thermal sheet on top of the concrete slab, and that's going to give you that soundproof. Thermal sheet is a sound, that's how it started. It started as a soundproofing agent for condos. So, if you've ever had a tile floor and lived below someone who had a tile floor in a condo, you could hear them walk everywhere. Well, they came up with a synthetic cork product to install under the tiles so it doesn't transmit through the ceilings. Um, and that's how thermal sheets started. We started using it as an insulator because it has great R value to it. And what that does is you put the soundproofing thermal sheet on the concrete slab. You put then, if you want to, and if you want to use Prodeso, you can, because Prodeso is waterproof. So you can use Prodeso to lay the product, attach the Prodeso to the thermal sheet with thinset. Then you lay the cable in the Prodeso. Then we have waterproofing bands that can then go over the joints, because you're probably going to have to install 2 or 3 pieces of Prodeso, and you're going to need those bands to seal each one of those cuts, each one of those seams, I should say. So it's going to be simply thermal sheet, Prodeso, the cable run into the Prodeso, then the Pro Band, which is going to seal those seams. Then you cover it with thinset and tile. That's the layer that you're going to be looking for.
Awesome. That's fabulous. Thank you, Scott. So that is all we have for today, but we will be doing another webinar next month, again, 1 o'clock Central Time right here on November 13th. And we'll be talking about transforming cold basements. So we're going to talk about some electric floor heating solutions for below grade spaces to make them a lot more comfy, cozy, and really prepare them for the winter. We also offer professional training sessions Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, again at 1 o'clock Central Time, often hosted by me or Scott or one of our other tech team members. And those are generally short 10-15 minute sessions. You can pop in, learn a little bit more about our products, and ask any questions that you might have.
And I don't want you to zone out just because we say basements, because this will pertain to anybody whose house is built on a slab.
Yes,
So just because you don't have a basement, and you're built on a slab, please join us for this too, because we talk about the differences between slab type surfaces as opposed to wood in upper floors, right? So very, very important that you join us for that too.
definitely. And then if you ever need anything, if you have questions, if you'd like to chat about an upcoming project, please don't hesitate to reach out. We would be more than happy to help. You can give us a call, shoot us an email, and of course, visit our website for all of those lovely tools we showed you and lots more information, including a chat feature during business hours. You can reach us on there, and it's actually us. It's not robots, it's not AI. So feel free to pop on and chat with us on our website as well. And I think that is all that we have. I'm not seeing any questions that came in, right?
Yep.
All right, I think we should be all set then. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Scott, for helping out with your expertise. And until next time, as always, stay warm.
And be radiant. Thanks for joining us.